Good morning, and welcome to the Women's Coffee Club. We created this club to provide a safe space for women to share and inspire each other. And we're so fortunate this morning to have my good friend, Corinne Hoch from, it used to be from Columbia University, but she's retired now. So, uh, thank you again, everyone, for joining us. So, Corinne, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about you and your background. And then I know your topic is about planning for a purposeful life. So I'm just gonna have you take it from here and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. And I have to say, I posted in the group a few minutes ago that when Renee first asked me to speak to you, I really wasn't sure exactly what I was going to say. What could I say to help prepare you for life after retirement? But then I pulled out my resume that I needed for another organization who wanted me to be a trustee. And I decided that summarizing my pre and post retirement might be helpful after all. And Renee had suggested that highlights were good. So highlights definitely emerged. And my highlights were that life is really all about being at the right place at the right time and being open to possibilities. Life is not always what you think it's going to be. You have to examine your professional value. You value your connections, just like Renee and Tammy. You embrace what is important in your life. You'll know when it's time to retire. Everyone says that, but you really, really do. Again, be open to the possibilities and live life fullest each and every day. So, how many of you are thinking about retirement?
I'm retired. I,
Thinking somewhere in the recesses of your mind. And some of you are already retired, just like Renee just said. And I'll bet there's some of you out there who can't possibly imagine a life without working. Tammy's gone back to work 2 times after the first time. She's working again. And I've been in each one of those stages too. I was born in South Carolina, reared in North Carolina, and I spent almost 40 years in the New York metropolitan area. The first 11 years I was with Citibank, and then I was at Columbia University in the city of New York for the next 25 years. So life really is all about being at the right place at the right time and being open to those possibilities. When I was just completing postgraduate studies, an undergraduate classmate called me and asked what I was planning to do with the rest of my life. I had no idea, but I kind of blurted out, I thought I'd head to New Hampshire to go skiing. Kristen was that friend, that classmate, and she was a connector, and she worked on Wall Street at the time. She insisted that I come and spend Thanksgiving with her parents, with her grandmother, with her in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. And I did. And that proved to be a fortuitous visit for me. The senior executive vice president in charge of a lot of things at Citibank lived right across the street from Kristen's parents. And his mother also graduated from Salem College. He even wanted his youngest child, who had just been born, his youngest daughter, to attend Salem when she grew up. But he knew the value of that particular women's school because he had observed one of its products firsthand, his mother. Life isn't always what you think it's going to be. Wade, that senior executive vice president, liked to surround himself with a staff of down-to-earth people. He and one of his vice presidents interviewed me around Kristen's kitchen table, and I didn't even know that I was being interviewed. But By the end of the interview, maybe even before, he was convinced that I would make a good Citibank employee. So he called that afternoon with a job offer. I thanked him, but I said, my degrees are in art. I grew up in North Carolina. I was used to wide open spaces, and I honestly couldn't imagine myself being confined, cooped up in one of the largest financial organizations in the world. Wade was surprised, but that didn't stop him from making the same job offer 2 other times. One day I came back to Kristen's home. I opened the back screen door, and this time I was surprised because a big, thick 8.5 by 11 package fell out right in front of me on my toes. And inside was a welcome to Citibank letter. Your starting date will be, your salary will be, and all sorts of benefit explanations. So I went on into the house, clutching this little package, big fat package. And I sat down, I thought about it, and I called Wade and I said, okay, you've got me, I accept. But could I please start after the first of the year? Because I wanted to go home to my family, my grandmother, my dog Taffy. Unfortunately, Wade agreed. So he explained that there was a freeze on hiring, and the only position available was secretarial clerical. I actually never studied typing, but I did teach myself how to type. And I should have easily passed that typing test, the speed test, but I flunked it. My IBM Selectric, and that really dates me. This was pre-computers, but it would not automatically return. I think it was broken. And the HR facilitator was not pleased with her being forced to hire me, whether I passed the test or not. So she ignored me every time I would raise my hand to try to tell her I had a broken typewriter. But after the test, she gleefully called Wade with me sitting right there in front of her. And she said, I did not pass. So what was next? And I could hear Wade on the other end of the phone, and he sighed and he said, well, re-administer the test, but this time make sure that the equipment is working properly. So examine your professional value. After about a month of working at Citibank, I went into Wade's office and I asked, okay, now what? I was bored. I worked in a wonderful office on the 18th floor at 111 Wall Street. I supported 5 vice presidents and assistant vice presidents who didn't have the educational background or the work ethic. And I think the work ethic is actually a more important facet that I did. And once again, Wade sighed, but he continued to provide many challenging learning opportunities for me. I was involved in launching satellite transponders, developing major expenditure proposals. And I was given a department to develop and manage with a $32.4 million budget. And I wasn't even 24 years old, but I was always assigned projects that were failing, and I always somehow managed to turn them around. So no one was really surprised when I became the first female assistant vice president in corporate telecommunications. That was in the 1970s. Again, I'm dating myself, but I'm a dinosaur. I didn't even know that there were glass ceilings back then. Now, we talked a little bit about how I know Renee and Tammy. It is so important to value your connections, just like I did value the connection with Wade and Kristen. I value the connection with Renee, with Tammy. My next opportunity appeared as an ad in the New York Times. Columbia University was looking for someone to manage the daily operations of 25,000 telephones in a Centrex environment. Again, that's kind of dating me. Taking over to free up the director who was needed to work on a team to select a proprietary communication system. I was really excited about finding that position. I was positive that higher education would be a great place to work. And it would be similar to what I had done or was doing at Citibank, except it would only be one system to support the same number of lines, 25,000, rather than 3 separate systems that I had at Citibank. Once again, I found that I was naive. Little did I realize that I was not only the only person who had ever implemented a proprietary communication system, but I would have to develop the teams that were required to implement and then maintain the system without sufficient funding. Columbia really never thought about the maintenance part of putting this thing in. They just thought it would self-maintain, and nothing ever does. Nothing is ever turnkey, no matter what it is. So yet again, there were many learning experiences just waiting for me. And navigating the constraints presented yet again by another world-class organization. This time, it was a nonprofit, and it needed to learn that it really was a business. In addition to the learning that accompanied personal and professional growth as Deputy Director of Technology Services and IT Program Manager, I think my favorite position was that of Client Relationship Management Director. Although I had a manager in charge of our voicemail system, students, faculty, and staff always wanted me to record their announcements. I became known as the Roam Phone Lady, and it was my voice that was heard everywhere, all over Columbia, everywhere you called. The Students' Blue Key Society chose me to read Clement Clark's More, Night Before Christmas, my last 17 years at Columbia, at their annual Yule log ceremony, instead of their favorite professor, who generally did that for the 250 years before me. But the president chose me to make certain that we graciously and seamlessly hosted the American University presidents at Columbia. I was always the liaison between communication services and the CIA and the FBI and our legal and our security teams. Looking back, I wouldn't change a thing, especially with the help of ACUDA, the Association for College and University Technology Advancement. Again, where both Renee and I served, and Tammy as committee chairs and board members. With Renee's financial background and knowledge of systems, she always kept the organization going, something that I needed, especially during my last 3 years of ACUDA and Columbia, serving as president-elect, president, and immediate past president, just as Tammy did. Renee and I were both honored to be recipients of the Bill D. Morris Award for ideals that Bill brought to ACUDA: dedication, vision, professionalism, and leadership. The impact of the tragedies experienced on September 11, 2001, proved to me that I could maintain grace under pressure, exhibit commitment to the students, staff, and faculty, share my communications technology skills and inventiveness, and the critical need to connect with the larger community. So, embrace what is important in your life. What prompted my early retirement from Columbia? My husband's early retirement. I returned home from work one evening, March 2011, and Greg announced that he was selling everything. And I could not believe it, because he'd studied to be a doctor, then followed his passion, training standard-bred horses, for over 40 years. I honestly thought he'd drop dead on the racetrack or at the farm. How could he possibly consider not spending each of his days with the animals he loved? As I said, you'll know when it's time to retire. He realized that the horse business was changing, and it wasn't really fun for him anymore. In retrospect, I'd noticed that when he turned 60, he began complaining about little things that had not bothered him before. I'd built a home on the South Carolina coast 3 years earlier on family land, and I'd solicited a realtor who grew up in a home in our neighborhood in Montclair, New Jersey, whose advice I'd followed in terms of preparing our home to be placed on the market. In the back of my mind, I'd always known that I wanted to return to the place where I'd spent my summers growing up. I just didn't know when that time would be. Yet, I wasn't ready to leave Columbia. I still had too many huge projects that I was planning and managing, so how could I possibly retire? I wasn't yet 60, and we didn't have a retirement financial plan. I struggled with the idea of retirement. But then I spent all one day doing something I'd never done before. I weeded the entire parkway that divided our street, and it stretched from Glen Ridge to Montclair. When I finished weeding, I stood up, I brushed the dirt from my knees, and I said out loud, "Now I can retire." I'd resolved through weeding my retirement issues. I knew I was happier on the South Carolina coast. I knew that I'd be able to work with Columbia management and assign the right people to complete those projects that I was working on and toward. And I knew that I could continue to be available for consultation, and I was for a year. And I knew that I could figure out the financial support we'd need. So I made an appointment with my CIO, who was surprised yet supportive, and we worked together to meet Columbia's needs through my August 31st retirement date and beyond. Again, be open to possibilities. What did I think I was going to do when I retired? Well, I thought I was going to write 17 books, but I didn't know which one to start. Until Merle's Inlet 2020 asked me to consider writing a book about our summer home that was built before the Revolutionary War, the American Revolution, and was one of the oldest residences on the creek. There was no street till many years later. But I'm still working on that first book in my spare time, and I continue to enjoy researching and creating fictitious stories based upon fact about each owner of the historic home since 1740. I began in the 1500s, and I'm now up to the early 1900s when my grandmother purchased that home. I do have a publisher, and hopefully soon I'll reach my goal of actually completing that first book, then on to 16 others. One of the reasons I haven't finished that first book is that Akuta made an offer I could not refuse. I thought I was going to Florida for a luncheon and to receive another leadership award, the Ruth A. Michalecki Award. The surprise was that the Akuta board asked me to take over as executive director while Jerry Semmer battled cancer. I accepted immediately because I would do anything for Jerry to preserve her position for the organization. I didn't think I needed a salary, and I didn't think it would be for a lengthy period of time. I could not have been president of Akuta without Jerry's help and support. 3 days after I agreed to help Akuta, Jerry died. So I found out that I had so much to learn about how Akuta really functioned. And I found out how much work needed to be done to literally turn that organization around at a time when the existence of all organizations was being threatened. Higher education was cutting staff and expenses, and the first budget line to be reduced would be training. I promised Akuta 5 years, and I gave them a little over 5.5, from 2011 to 2016. With an 8-person management team and a volunteer-based membership of more than 2,200 individuals, I navigated Akuta successfully through the most economically challenging period of its existence, allowing it to continue its legacy, the provision of exemplary professional support for higher education technology thought leaders, decision makers, and influencers. With a proven knowledge of technology, finance, attention to detail, experience in senior management, and a passion for helping others. The last fiscal year I was with Akuta, I increased tangible investments by 100%, decreased operating expenses by more than 20%, increased paid event attendance by 17%, and provided the first technology research grants to our institutional members. As the CEO, I serve the membership as its representative and spokesperson with other higher education and technology associations. I have a cat who's helping me speak. Educational institutions, corporate affiliates, the media, and the public, as its publisher, editor, and contributor to all association publications, including the Journal of Information Communications Technology and Higher Education, the Akuta e-News, the collaborative 5-year benchmarking study of residential networking, and the DAS Architectural Specifications Task Force report. I oversaw all event management, including seminars, conferences, webinars, just-in-time roundtables like Reenie's, and focus groups to ensure the integration of strategic educational content. I was the legislative regulatory liaison with attorneys, governmental agencies, internal committees, and other special interest groups. So after all that, what did I plan to do after I retired the second time? To support God, home, and country, and live life to the fullest every day. Supporting God, at long last, I could do what I didn't have time to do working all the time. 75 hours per week. I do believe, Sue, you said that's what you were doing too. But I could take advantage of church-related activities. I was invited to join the Centennial Committee to help research the church's history. And I began writing dramatizations for annual production as a way to teach history and learn history in an enjoyable manner. We created Blaine Heritage Day, and we look forward to celebrating the church's 100th anniversary in 2025. I was also invited to help the church by looking after its many beautiful gardens. Once a week on Wednesdays, I untether myself from all electronic devices, and I literally dig in the dirt. That was something that I continued even during COVID because we naturally social distanced outside. And Greg and I both devote at least 2 months to serving as ushers at the 8:45 a.m. service on Sundays. So far, no one has asked us to make change from the offering plate, so we're relieved. Supporting home. Now we get to spend more time with our 2 children and 8 grandchildren, whose ages range from 6 to 32, in their homes outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and Tammy, Charlotte, North Carolina, in Fort Mill, just across the line. They're often here too, and I have to tell you what Davis 8 asked me over the 4th of July when we had a house filled to overflowing. He asked if I were a saint, and I just laughed and said that I didn't think I was eligible. But I asked him, why in the world did he think to ask me that? And he said, well, saints were good. And I was so nice. That really floored me. I was particularly amazed because earlier I had used an authoritative voice to insist that he and his brother put their iPads down. I guess he'd forgiven me. But I have to admit that every time I think about that story, I'm still touched about that conversation. It means a lot, and I'll carry it forever in my heart. Our son was getting married for the second time, and a friend of mine suggested that I become a South Carolina notary. Who knew that down here, notaries can perform weddings? So I did. Not only was I was their officiant, but I enjoyed working with Daniel's fiance to plan the wedding weekend at our church and in our home here on the picturesque inlet. I still say that that is my blessing on his second marriage. Last year, I was honored to officiate at our 29-year-old granddaughter's marriage in Charleston. I guess that was my blessing on their first marriage, and I continue to be grateful that I can help them in this way. Supporting country. External historical organizations may be a source of retirement enjoyment for you to explore. I continue to serve many different patriotic lineage societies on national, state, and local levels. I learned a long time ago, and I think, Rena, you said this earlier, that we're able to help more through our service to others, with others. I actually tomorrow will be at the new VA facility in Myrtle Beach. I devote time every month to do that, and a lot of other things like that. Supporting the economy. As an honorary board member of the Grand Strand British Car Club, Greg and I plan and attend annual car shows, tour the countryside in British caravans, a lot of times solo too, sponsor British tea events and club meetings. So the little British car, a 1979 MGB that I gave Greg for our 20th wedding anniversary over 20 years ago, continues to provide wonderful experiences for both of us. And after golfing in Palm Springs, St. Andrews, Pebble Beach, Spyglass Hill, Pinehurst, and in 2 women's leagues here on a weekly basis, I've recently made a wiser decision to now golf only with family and close friends. I realized that I needed to find more time in the day to devote to our family and to other things, and I'm much happier with that decision. It really takes at least 5 hours out of every day to play golf and socialize on the course. Then supporting education. It's hard for me to believe, but this April marked the 50th year of my graduation from one of the first women's schools in the country, Salem College, founded in 1772 by the Moravians. I agreed to be in charge of fundraising, and we exceeded our goal of $150,000 by over $25,000. And that is particularly notable because our campaign followed on the heels of our 250th $15 million campaign, which we also exceeded. I created class videos, our class skit, and somehow convinced the 50 classmates who attended to sing what I adopted as the class song, the theme from the Golden Girls. I don't know if all of you might remember that. It's not really an easy song to sing, but we did it. And so with that, this golden girl, who still feels and sometimes acts like she's a teenager, is ready to take any questions you might have to help you prepare to embrace your life before and after retirement.
Wow, Corinne, thank you so much for your share. Oh my gosh, your life is full. You've done so much of everything.
But as you're saying, Rainey, every little thing prepares us for our life, whether it's before retirement or after retirement. Sometimes we don't even realize we're being prepared. I certainly didn't. But so, any questions?
Yeah, I mentioned to Corinne in the beginning our experience with Tammy. Tammy's here also, and Corinne and I, we serve on the board of directors for Akuda for many, many, many years, and we serve different position, from program chair to vice president to just the different role and within the uh within and the membership chair, just a different role within Akuda. And I think that, I was telling Corinne that this women's coffee club, in a way, kind of reminded me of some of the roles that we play in this organization because we had to organize, like I said, I organize the speaker. I have to find speaker for each week. Every single week, we have a different speaker. I had to connect with people, even people I don't know. I had to reach out and ask for their contribution for this club, organizing it, announcing it, posting motivational messages and all of that. It reminded me of the experience that I learned from Akuda. We were talking about the lady who used to be the program. What was Donna Hall's position, Corinne?
Oh goodness, I
Program
think
director.
it was.
Program director.
I
Was
think
it?
in one
What
of,
was it?
well, she was the program director. Um, I can't remember the last title that I think I gave her the title of director of program management. Um, we couldn't give salary increases, so we would give them different titles that sounded bigger and better. So little
So
tricks of
I
the
need
trade.
a new title, huh? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. That's
But anyway,
what
yeah.
Jessica.
So
Go for queen, Renee. Just go for queen.
so I think like the jazz of it is like everything you do, your life skills. We're talking like even when we go to school, we said, okay, what are we using our math or calculus or whatever for? But really, to indirectly, we apply the different skills that we learn even from grade school to now. You're talking about history and stuff. So like everything that you go through life, it prepares you for the next thing. I guess that's kind of the bottom line. So I think we're going to open it up for a conversation just to talk about our lives and each of us here. So Sue, do you want to start?
Oh gosh, start with me. No, that's it's good for me to hear because I'm not quite ready to retire, but I am slowly cutting back on my hours, kind of introducing more. I'm very involved in some nonprofits, and having more time for those is important to me. And so hearing your journey helps inspire me in my journey. So I appreciate you sharing all of that. And wow, what some amazing accomplishments you've had in your various careers. I just enjoyed hearing about what all you had done and taken on as a woman back in the day when, yeah, there weren't a lot of women out there doing what you were doing. So it's
But
very,
I did not. I didn't know that. I mean, I was the only woman in corporate telecommunications until I started developing a staff of designers, and um, and I particularly chose women because of their attention to detail and their nurturing. Um, they paid attention. They listened. Um, Tammy was just saying earlier before everyone got on, with her new job, it's it's in a different. It's for the town of Charlotte, and Charlotte, as we all know, is the Queen City. It's huge, and she might be working with an airport. She might be working with um, a gas supplier. You just really don't know who's going to have a need. But I think females are better prepared to listen and help others. And that's why I developed my first staff with just females. There are some good men who can listen too, but they're more divas.
Yeah. Well, especially in the technology arena, Corinne, IT was most of it was like men. It's a men-dominated industry. I mean, now there are more women going into that field. But in the past, um, most of them were men in the IT arena. So we were just kind of what do you call what is it? Creating the path or however you say it. We're part of that initial, you know, entry into the man space.
Yeah,
Well,
you ladies really did help pave the pathway for some of the younger women that are on this group.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely. So, don't
they don't know
underestimate.
what life was like when men were kind of the dominant. It's they have a whole wonderful world with everything open up to them that you all had to create for yourselves. It wasn't just there.
It's
You
it's
made it
true.
there.
I mean, I bet each one of us here on the call could testify to that how we have to pave the way for the new generation to enter into the field wherever it is. So, Tamara Oswald, there are two Tammy here. Let's hear it from you. How do you unmute?
Oh, there we go. Oh, great story. You've done a lot. Oh my goodness. I'm like, wow. My head is exploding right now, like with the possibilities. But like with my growing up, like I was growing up 70s, 80s. So, and abusive, alcoholic male in the household. And so we didn't have the I didn't have the my mom was strong, but she was strong in a way of fighting back, not setting a higher standard for women. So, while I appreciate what she's done, it's women like you that have, you went out there and you didn't even know. You said you didn't even know. It's a mindset thing, right? And so, because you didn't know that there was this gap, you just went for it, you know.
yeah,
And I love that. Like, if we can train ourselves to forget about all of that stuff that held us back and start new, make a decision today. I'm done with that old stuff because I don't have to remember it. I have control over my own mind. I can move forward and do what I want to do. And I've done that, but sometimes I find myself thinking about the past. And so making that decision every day, every single day. Okay, that happened. Yeah, that's the fact. But the reality is I have control over what my future. And you took, like, even when your husband decided to retire, you said, okay, well, what can I do? And, how can I make this better? Is kind of what I got from you. I was listening to Michael Beckwith yesterday as how can my life get better? And your life just kept getting better and better and better. And it's like, wow, I'm really impressed. Thank you for sharing.
Well, I just have chills because you're absolutely right that it's you have to remember every day you have a platform and you're springing from it. You're releasing yourself. You are embracing what is there to be embraced and garnered and learned from, and just go for it. Just decide. And it's a personal decision, and you do it.
And you're right, Tamara. When back in the days when we were going through this, Corinne, I, and Tammy, we didn't think about the mindset thing, the whole coaching, personal development, all of that. We didn't learn all of that. Um, we didn't even think of that. We just kind of do what we had to do. It's almost part of it is survival, but on the other hand, I think there are other women that kind of along us that kind of paved the way. But you just learn from each other, and you just life will you will run into challenges. You will have issues. regardless of
You
where
know,
you are in any
my husband,
organization or anything. But you just keep, you know, plug along and keep going.
you know, when I married my husband, it's been 32 years ago, and his mom was top security at Pete Field, which was a military base, Air Force base. And I thought, wow, how awesome. How do you get there, right? Then I learned that before her mom was a nurse, one of the very first paid nurses. And then I learned before her that my husband's grandmother on her dad's side was the very first bus driver in Minnesota. And so it was like these kinds of things kind of started setting my mind to like, wow, if if they could do that, why can't I? And so I just kept trying to learn more and more and more and more and more. And so I think you're right about the progressiveness as well. It's like, you know, you know, you said you wanted to learn more, you needed more of a challenge. And throughout my entire adult life, I feel like every time I learn something new, as soon as I learn it, I have to go to the next level. I have to go to the next level. I have to go to the next level. And my husband and I were talking the other day. He goes, I go, I don't know if I want to go back to school. And he goes, honey, you haven't stopped. Like, because I'm still in personal development. I've finished my master's. It's like I've been going and going and going the whole time my kids were growing up. And so, and that's kind of what we do to set the pace for the next generation. So I'm really grateful for the people like you that did, you guys that set that bar a little higher for women. So thank you.
Well, the fact that you quit your job to focus on coaching, that's daring. Like I don't know. Like there were times when I thought this is time for me to leave the higher education because I wanted to do something else. I didn't dare because I have kids, I have family and I needed that income and health benefits and retirement check. So that's really brave that you did that. That's amazing to go
Thank
after
you.
what you want.
Thank you. Some days I feel a little bit scared about that, but other days I'm like, this is what I was meant to do.
Yeah, it's helpful that you have other income from your spouse, otherwise
Mhm.
it makes it harder. Okay, let's go to the next person here. Faith, do you want to say something? Faith?
Well, I would be the exact opposite of all you well done ladies who've done wonderful with your life. And our speaker certainly has accomplished a lot. Um, Even as I'm approaching the age generally thought to be retirement age, financially, there is no way in the HE I can do that. And so, as I had a beautiful education and can be quite clever on some things, but I failed massively and made horrible decisions on so many levels. And I've been struggling with, okay, how do I rectify this? Or how do I write this? Or how do I make this into something that can be positive, like making lemons into lemonade? Or I think I probably said this once before, but I was talking to a man and who had a lot of difficulties, but turned everything around and became successful. And he said he looked for the blessing in the broken. And like when he said that, I'm like, what are you talking about? But I'm trying to look for the blessing in the broken. And there's a lot of women like me who are past the age of, I mean, let's face it, if you want to talk about easy access, once you are no longer in your 20s or looking like you're in your 20s, a lot of people just don't even look at you and open the door for you, even if when they were before it wasn't for the right reasons. And so I'm trying to work on making a program for women like me, girls like me, that we didn't marry well, or we had catastrophic illness or financial collapse, or we just never got it together. And how to make a program that would help women over 50 learn to love and value themselves and see what their gifts and resources are, even after colossal, massive failure, and how to make a life and a living, even if you're starting over at what everyone would perceive is not the aptitude time to do so. So that's what I'm trying to work on. But I'm extremely proud of you ladies, and I hope I come up with something good for those of us ladies who kind of missed the mark, because we need to keep living and feel like there's hope and something we can do. But so I'm on the opposite side, and I'm trying to learn as much as possible, and I'm very thankful for this group. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Faith, for sharing. So who wants to respond to that?
I think it is the most admirable goal that you have, Faith, and I am positive. I think you are aptly named, Faith. I believe that you, with your faith in yourself, will help others more than the majority of the people here. So I'm so impressed with what you want to do with your life to help others. I think it's wonderful, and I know you'll succeed.
And the fact that you're hanging in there, Faith, I see you every week here. To me, that tells me that you're motivated to learn from others, and so you can improve your life. So thank you for your sharing. And I think Suzanne probably has a response. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Yeah, Faith, you and I should connect with our missions, because my bridge builder sounds an awful lot like that. And Corinne, I am opening the pathway for mental health, particularly autistic women who are feeling like they've been completely rejected from society. And I'm changing all that by letting them know that they are gifted, and that's helping society understand that we're not incapable, and we're definitely not disabled, as a lot of people believe that we might be. And so I'm like I've been calling myself the torchbearer for mental health awareness, to say we're not disabled unless we consider ourselves disabled. And I certainly do not. I'm autistic level 1. I didn't even find out till I was 51. My bigger challenge came from the fact of I could have done so much more with my life had I had the empowerment behind me to say that I'm worth it. I listened to all your accomplishments and like, that's awesome. And imagine what I could have done if I did have the empowerment, because I've been running on my own steam since the last 5 years of developing what I think women should be able to receive, even with mental health challenges. And they're not problems. I'm trying to get a lot of women to realize we don't have problems, we have challenges. And that's where I'm going. I have a Aspie Bridge Builders is what connects the neurotypical woman to help the neurodiverse woman come back into society with her head held high, so she can get into all these organizations and not feel like, oh, we're not good enough to be a part of all these things. And that's where I'm at.
So proud of you. So proud of you, Suzanne. I've noticed Suzanne has done a lot, and when she created this bridge builder program for women who felt like they have been bullied or they are disadvantaged, I was just so proud how she just keep moving forward. Faith, Suzanne is an good example where she just keep moving forward despite the challenges that she has. So Corinne, you want to respond to that?
I was trying to put a little heart up there, but I couldn't figure out
I
how to
saw
do
it. Thank you. Thank you.
But I have autism does run in our family, and of course before we knew about it, it's always been here. And I think that you are looking at the positives and you are supporting the positives and sharing that with others, and that is and you have embraced that. I am so impressed, and just don't have the words to adequately support what you're doing and why you're doing it. I do think that when you look at the broken, as you were saying, Faith, what you have done in autism, no matter where you land on the scale, you also are given a skill that is a blessing that you have harnessed and are sharing with others. And it's just something that we all need to learn from.
Yes. Thank you, Corinne. Absolutely. Tamara, I see your hands up.
And Faith, I wanted to just say that, like, I noticed from the first time I saw you on one of these calls to now, like a huge growth. And I also wanted to, one of the things that helped me throughout, because I made a lot of poor choices when I was going through all this too. So I've done a lot of growing, but one of the things that really helped me to be able to grow and not stunt is everything comes together for the good. Everything comes together for the good. And every time I would think that I made a poor choice or that I screwed something up, I'd say, okay, there's a lesson in this, and everything works together for the good. And that would help me to be able to say, okay, what is the lesson, and then move forward. And I'm only saying that to see if it would help you. And that's kind of one of the things that I teach my women, that I coach as well. That it always helps when you know that everything that we go through, everything that we are dealing with is always going to turn out for the good. We may not see it in the moment, but we will see it.
So awesome. So awesome. Great advice. I know that yesterday I went to this little webinar about standing tall, how you interpret, in other words, your circumstances may be unfortunate, but with gratitude, just do the practice gratitude every day, even when it's not, the situation is not necessarily the best, but look at the positive. It's hard to do. It's a practice. You have to kind of almost turn it around. Something bad happened, but look, because of this happened, I learned from this, and I turn it into, like, you put a positive spin. It's kind of a crazy thing, but you turn it around, but it's a practice in your head that you keep, Faith, like, some words that you use that's kind of this empowering. You turn that around into using an empowering word. Tamara, maybe you can give an example of what that would be like.
So you're asking if I could have like an
Yeah, like,
affirmation?
how do you turn things around? Like the words that you use, like, like, I'm always failing, and I don't have, whatever. And you turn it into, like, but, in the Tamara, you and I went to the Dream Builders program, right?
Yeah.
They put up, what is it? What is the word that you put in the middle? Like, up until now, like that was what it was, the past. But I think, Suzanne, you went to the Dream Builders program also.
Yeah.
Up until now, like that was the past, but up until now, then you change the sentence into, like, positive spin to whatever it was, the bad thing. So
Yes. So like, I'm trying to think of an example. I had a negative thought yesterday. I had them less and less now because I've been doing this for a while. So now I got to go back and think of a negative thought. But I think of that negative thought and then I say, up until now, that has happened, but I get to make this decision today and move forward. And then if that doesn't work, then I tell myself, everything happens for the good. Everything happens for the greater good. And then I also tell myself I'm loved, because if you don't feel loved and safe, then you don't learn. And I was, not too long ago, I had a rejection of some sort. And I thought all of those things started coming back about how I screwed up everything in my whole life and blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, you know what? That was up until now. And then I was like, but everything that I went through, everything that I did, I learned something from, and that brought me to who I am today. And I am a better person, more loving, more caring, more kind. And I like this person. So it all comes together for the good. Everything does. And I'm loved, you know?
That's awesome. Good job. Corinne?
I just wanted to say, Suzanne, you have had a smile, a big smile on your face the entire time. And that is so telling. With that smile, you know, you radiate positivity. And then if you look at the star behind you, you have like a guiding light, and you yourself are your own guiding light. It's just
Amazing.
you're amazing.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
I want to
Omeka.
add to
Oh,
Tamara
go ahead.
and just say quickly that I was working with a client yesterday who lives in Uganda, and Loveline and I are working together with her, and she was feeling down, and I said, we're going to start with an affirmation. I am unique and talented. She's also asked me, she's trying to find money to help feed herself and feed her family. And rather than saying, oh, I can't do it, I said, no, we are unique and talented. This is not a problem. It's a challenge. It's not forever. It's for now. Just for now. And it gets her to realize that, yeah, life is not perfect. It's not all roses and lollipops, but it's a temporary challenge that is only happening right now. Because if she thinks that it's going to go on for the rest of her life, she's already feels defeated. But if she says, yes, it's a challenge for right now, not forever, she left the phone and she was laughing by the time she was done. And she's just like, I said, you can sit there and complain. And I was putting on funny faces, or you can really be positive and think, okay, well, because as we know from Mary Morrissey, when you sit there and complain about who you are or what your situation is, you're getting nowhere. The ideas come when you say, okay, this is just what is happening. We have a phrase, this is just what is happening while it's all coming together. And I love
Yes.
that. I
I
love
love
that.
that. We're past the hour, but I realize I haven't had given Omeka a chance to say something. Omeka, we're past the hour now, so a few people I know they had meetings, so they had to drop off.
No
Go
problem.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm just grateful for whatever I've been through. It's not even about forgiveness. It's like the journey is the joy. The joy is in the journey. And being raised by a mom that 1968 became a police officer in Nassau County, New York. Yeah. So I was raised by a woman such as you, brave souls. And we're all brave, but we still alive, whatever age we are. And my retirement, if I thought about it, and it's good to think about it way ahead of time, like in your teens and 20s and 30s. But it's okay, because I was just looking at somebody. They had two pictures of somebody that was 80 years old. One was like a bodybuilder, fit with abs and everything. One was walking over with a cane. So the choice is up to us, wherever we're at. So I'm at a place where learning wealth strategies and financial
Wellness.
yeah, financial wellness. I like that. I'm 62. It is what it is. You know, my dad, it was his birthday yesterday. He was 88, second year in heaven. And yeah, just it's a blessing. And yeah, that I'm looking forward to that imagination in the standing tall. Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
we're living in it
Omeka, you're the best.
subconsciously anyway every day. So I'm looking forward to focusing and getting real clear. And it's beyond courage for me. But yeah, thank you all. And I've been inspired today. So
I love Omeka. She has this positive outlook. She is just an amazing person with this amazing personality.
yeah,
Always
well, my retirement
grateful.
is being a caregiver right now. And my lessons are to control my emotions. My mother does not control my emotions. You know, the situation that she's dealing with at whatever moment. So it's bringing up a lot of childhood stuff, a lot of personality, I would say faults, but things that I don't want and I want to change because that anger turns into physical stress and pain, and I'm just ready to release all that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe Dispenza, Louise Hay, everybody, everybody. So
Thank you, Omeka.
enjoy your day.
Thank you. We already
Yeah.
passed the time, unless Marla, I don't know if Marla is there. I haven't seen Marla. And then the other, I don't know, 952-788. I don't know if you want to say anything, because we need to close this out. We are 7 minutes past 8 o'clock. So I mean for California time. For
I
Corinne,
just
it's
want to
even
say
later.
one last thing, a word that you
Okay.
can use. This is Arlene McLaren. This is a temporary inconvenience for my permanent improvement.
I
Temporary
love that.
inconvenience
Arlene, I didn't know who you were with that number on the screen.
for my
But yeah.
improvement, and I could give you stories that have been temporary inconveniences that led to my permanent improvement. One real quick one. I was going to an event with the president and I'm supposed to have my credentials to enter the event with the president. And I did not
President
have the
who? Obama?
credentials. Yeah, because the
Okay.
cameraman who was supposed to bring the credentials from the location, he wasn't there. And I was really wanting to go. So everything worked out. I saw people that I knew, people told me where to go. It was crazy. But make a long story short, that I got into that event. When I was there and I was at the front, I was concerned that nobody else was going to know that, this thing had happened for me, because it's crazy. If I had the credentials, it wouldn't have been a big deal that I got into the event and that I interviewed the president. No big deal. But the fact that I didn't have any credentials and I got in and I got to the front, nobody was going to see me. Nobody was going to know that this wonderful thing happened. But then the president came off the stage, and out of everybody in the room, he walked over to me. And I literally grabbed his arm and would not let him move. And Secret Service does not play. But he stood there and I kept saying, take a picture, because I needed proof that this wonderful thing had happened and that he came off the stage and came to me. And somebody did take a picture, but that evening someone was watching on television, because I was on all the news stations. And she said, Arlene, I saw you on TV. You were with the president, but you looked crazy. I was like, no, I didn't. She's like, yeah, you really did. You kept saying, take the picture, take the picture.
That's awesome. Arlene, I think I saw that
Temporary,
picture before. It was awesome. Oh,
temporary inconvenience for my permanent
I love
improvement.
that.
So that's a
Temporary
platform that I have.
temporary inconvenience for my permanent solution. Is that what you said?
Permanent improvement, because then I had that as a platform, right? I knew, wow, this is something that can happen. If I hadn't had the difficulty, I wouldn't have known. Wow,
There you go.
we can
There you
walk
go.
into places and doors open and, amazing things can happen. But if I didn't have the temporary inconvenience, I wouldn't have known about this permanent improvement. So thank you for letting me share.
I love it. I love it. We have to close, ladies. Marla, I don't know if you're there or not, but we're way past the hour. So thank you so much, Corinne, and all of you for your participation and contribution. This has been an amazing interactive discussion about the our life in general and retirement. So thank you, Corinne. And next week it'll be Carla. She'll be talking about kind of a similar topic about creating the path to get to your purposeful life. So it's a similar topic. It's like, how do you overcome the obstacle, the struggles while you're trying to get there? So it'll be come back again. Hope to see all of you there. Have a great week, great weekend, everyone, and see you next week. Bye-bye all.
Bye. Great to see you
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
Corinne,
Hi,
do you
Tamara.
wanna, I
Hi,
forgot,
11.
Olivia. Hi,
wait a
Renee.
minute. I forgot to ask Corinne to give her last word. Normally
Oh.
I do that for the speaker. Corinne, so sorry. Go ahead.
I am inspired by all of you, and I think we have so much to learn from one another, and I'm grateful for this. Thank you, Renee, for putting it all together. Thank you all for sharing, because we need to learn from one another. And I wrote down temporary inconvenience for my permanent improvement.
I love that, Arlene. We all gonna memorize that. Thank you again,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank
See
you.
you next
Bye-bye.
week. Bye-bye all.
Bye.
Bye.